So, when you're asked questions like what animal best represents who you are, it's always sort of an interesting question. We can get sort of aspirational, like I'm, gloriously hairy like a lion, or elegant like the dairy cow, or whatever it is. Those usually aren't how people interpret those animals. I understand. But but when I thought about it for a long time, and there was one that actually, we always pick something that is, like I said, aspirational. But what I really realized for myself, that for me, I am a rhino. And this isn't the most typical answer that people think about, but how I describe it as far as my personality and who I am is big, stupid, and I run until I hit something. Now, you might say, hey, Kathleen, you're miscategorizing a rhino, and also, do we have issues? And really, no, really, we don't. We're going to take this in the best possible senses of the word. Because being a rhino has helped me to embark upon this whole other career I never really expected to have, never planned to have. And I am a published game designer. Tabletop board games. For about the last 10 years, I've been working in the game industry as a game designer, and I never, ever would have thought these things. I mean, one, I'm a woman. In the tabletop gaming world, it's a small percentage of even gamers who are women, and much less designers. I mean, really, 20, 30 of us, maybe, right? I'm 47, so a lot of times at this stage in our lives, we're maybe thinking about sunsets, and I'm like, where else can we go? And then, of course, I'm a teacher, and most people expect me as a teacher to spend my summers, sitting by pools and whatnot, and that's fun, but I get bored after a while, and so then I just start to make things. So being a rhino has enabled me to become a game designer, and that's what I'm here to talk about with you all today. So the first thing that we want to talk about is being big. Now, rhinos are a few, 1,000 kilos of weight. Me, life goals, let me tell you, but I'm not, I'm not really talking about big in terms of size. I'm talking about you have to have a big goal in what you want to accomplish. You define big, right? So for me, I had learned a very important lesson once upon a time through my family. Every year when I was a kid, my mother would take us, my three sisters and myself, to Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And I didn't know this, but my mom had a crush on Gunther Gable Williams, who was their animal trainer. That's a whole other TED Talk to unpack, but, I mean, right? So every year we would go, and I didn't realize until years later when I did, I thought it was hilarious. But the thing that happened in all those times that we would go to the circus is my sister Karen, she decided that she wanted to be a clown. She was around 8 years old. She wanted to be a clown. And when she turned 18, she started trying out. Now, Ringling Brothers Clown College has about 30 spots, or had, they've closed now, had about 30 spots, and every year, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people would try out. Their acceptance rate was harder than Harvard's. And her first year, she tried out, and it didn't go very well, nothing happened. Her second year, when she was 19, it went much better, and then nothing happened. And then her third year, when she was 20, she tried out, and it went amazing. Amazing. Apparently, when the whole thing was over, because they did lots of improv and stuff, the clowns took the VHS tape backstage, VHS, there you go, and we're watching it over and over and over again. And she came home floating about how well this had gone in the response. And we as her family, we were like, oh no. What are we going to do when she fails? How are we going to help her get through this? Because she's so incredibly excited. There's no way it's going to happen, right? And as Karen herself said, there was no reason for me to be a clown. Average body, average face. I couldn't tumble. I couldn't juggle. I just know I wanted it more than anybody else. And so as you can see, being the elegant one on the right, my sister was accepted to Ringling Brothers Clown College, and eventually she did become a clown with Ringling Brothers for several years that to even now are like the highlight of her life, and she loved it so much. And I learned a very important lesson because it was such a big goal. We were like, there's no way that she's going to do this. Who is she to do it? But what I learned more than anything is that you can have a big goal. You need to have a big goal. What is the big goal you want to have? Because she did it. And it's going to be someone. It might as well be you. Someone gets to be a news broadcaster, somebody gets to direct movies, somebody gets to act in movies, somebody gets to make board games, right? Why not you? And I learned a very important lesson, and that's not to diminish anybody else's goals, but also my own. Stupid. Now, rhinos are actually very intelligent, but there's always that, we think of them as, being small-brained and whatnot. But what I'm talking about here really isn't about intelligence. What I'm talking about for stupid is whenever you embark on something unfamiliar, you're going to be really bad at it at first, and at second, and at third, and at fourth. And you have to embrace that mindset in order to become successful. Now, I love this quote so much. This is actually from Andy, a character in Parks and Rec, who was played by Chris Pratt. And someone took all of his silly quotes and they made inspirational posters out of them like this. But to me, there's nothing that really encompasses what it means to be a game designer, or quite honestly, a teacher sometimes, than this. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well. You just have to lie to yourself sometimes, because otherwise you'd give up, you'd quit, you'd be like, I'm bad at this didn't go well, and all this, why am I doing it? But it's that sense of, I'm just gonna keep going, and this is great, that can really help you to persevere. And so, I came across this image once, a long time ago, and I was like, absolutely, this is what game design is. You want this sleek car, and then at the end, you get this demolition derby car. But where my thinking has shifted over the years is the top game would be great, right? Fun, fast race game, but that's kind of all it is. The second one, and it's unexpected when you have results like this in your playtest, but what you learn is, there's a whole lot more avenues I didn't even think were going to be possible by what I put on the table. And having that openness and flexibility to ideas, that's when it gets cool. That's when it gets fun, because that's when you're really starting to play around with what you hadn't expected or hadn't even tried. And so what I've come to realize is, at the top is great, but for me, that's the game I want to play. I want to smash things, I want to paint my car, I want to do all those cool things, right? So that's how the thinking of being stupid and being open to ideas can be really helpful. So about 15 years ago, I'm old, started teaching design thinking to my students. And the thing that I found was, as I was teaching about design thinking to my students, I was really internalizing it. I was really thinking about all these ideas about bias towards action and rapid prototyping and all these things, so that as I was working with my students, coming up with all these cool things we're doing in class, from cosplay and bottle rockets, medieval artillery, all these other things, when I started having kids design games, I started designing games too. I really hate the expression, those who can't do teach. And the design starts with empathy, understanding the needs of your users. So I started designing games too. And I really, really liked it. It wasn't ever something that I planned. And so you can see, this is the stupid part, right? There's a lot of work that goes into every single one of these prototypes, and this takes a long time. And here's another one of my games, right? It takes a long time, and totally different ways of playing, totally different ways of envisioning the board. But if you're willing to be stupid, then you get better at it the more you go. And so finally, for my lovely rhinos, the last part is running until you hit something. And for me, this is really where success can come. The difference, or what really drives you, or what can make you successful, is this idea of grit. And Angela Duckworth, she was a middle school teacher. She was originally a neuroscientist, eventually became a psychologist, and she really began to study what it is that makes people successful. And she found it to be grit, and it's passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And for me, this so encapsulated, reading about it afterwards, it made so much sense. When you're passionate, you have to have a long-term goal. It's your ultimate purpose, and the key thing here is you would do it for free. Now, luckily, you can feel like you're doing it for free and people can pay you, and that's really fun too. But it's something that just is your goal that drives you more than anything. But that second part, just to have the big goal of what you want to do, isn't anything without perseverance. You have to be resilient. You have to work hard. You have to persist after obstacles and failure. You have to be driven to improve. Because if you stall out there, then you're not going to have anything. I remember like there was one guy who came to a board game playtesting event. He brought his game, put it on the table, we played it, we gave him all kinds of feedback, and he couldn't take it. He didn't want to hear it. It was his baby, it was his game. I get it. But he didn't want to hear about what he needed to do to make it better. He disappeared, we never saw the game again. You know, and so having the ability to go through those experiences and be willing to grow is a huge part of what you need in order to become successful. She even gives an equation for it. Talent times effort is skill, skill times effort is achievement. So again, effort. There's that work piece that has to come into play. So for me, personally, being a game designer has not been easy. You have to have grit to persevere. Let's look at some of the cavalcade of fun things. Games rejected by publishers, yes. Signed games returned, yes. As in they signed my game, they wanted to make it, then they decided, no, we're not gonna make it. That's not fun. Someone threw a prototype at me once because they really hated it. Sometimes ideas don't come. Criticism that has been incredibly personal, or felt that way. Bad reviews, games getting rejected by being reviewed, credit given to my male co-designer, or like one of my favorite ones is like I've got my game on the table and like my boyfriend might, or just even a man standing next to me and people will start asking questions of them. I'm like, no, it's me. You know, that's minor. I'm used to that. But, you know, still, it's all these things that can wear you down. You've got to just be, you know, be a Rhino. Just keep going. Don't let it stop you. And so for me, as a game designer, I make bad games. I don't come up with these amazingly perfect, like ready-to-go things, experiences. I do not. But what I am good at is making games better. So for this game here, what started out was called Kessel Run and then Crash Course. You know, you can see all the different iterations along the way of the game. And I consider this my high watermark, because I know from each version what I did to make it better every single step of the way. And from start to finish with this game, it's real. I did it, right? Nine years. Starting to work on it. I mean, I'm a teacher, right? That takes a lot of time, right? I'm not working on it every single day, every single moment, but still, that's not necessarily unheard of, right? It takes a long time, and if I knew 9 years ago, like, you'll have your game, but it'll take you 9 years, would I have done it? Yeah, I would have. But if you can't see yourself doing that, then you have to evaluate what really is your goal and what is it all about. See? But one thing I do want to say, my game's published by WizKids, and the publisher, Zev Slashinger, he is half Romanian, and I'm hoping that he comes to visit next year. So yay, Zev. So anyway, so as I was saying, going back to all of this, the difference between a published and non-published game designer is grit. You have to have passion, you have to have perseverance. But take out game designer and put anything in there. What matters to you, it's passion and perseverance that will get you through. So in conclusion today, I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening to me. Be a Rhino. Be big. Be stupid. You know, run until you hit something. Wait a minute. Hold on. Be big. Have big creative ideas. Oh ho. Should we be stupid? Should we be courageous about trying new things? Should we be compassionate when we run and hit some things for ourselves and for others? Why, yes, we can. So if there's anything that you've taken from today, please go on, make cool things, make the world more interesting. And because the sweet rhinos were so inspirational to me, please consider making a donation along with me to the World Wildlife Foundation to help support the conservation and protection of these majestic creatures. Thank you very much.